It's Foxy. Welcome to Curiously Conscious. This episode, I'm going to cut in with hopefully some interview of my cousin Lori, who is a very interesting person, artist, medicine woman. She's very, very cool. I wanted to share her with you. She's doing some things online and YouTube, and she does readings as well. I'll share some information and my little conversation I had with her just yesterday. If I can figure out how to edit her into my video. So I am learning new things. And today is April 11th, is one of my really good friends' birthdays. But beyond that, Mr. Fox's birthday was a few days ago. And so that was nice. On Easter for the first time. He's 55, and it's the first time he's ever had a birthday on Easter, which I find fascinating. But anyway, he had his birthday the other day, and we had a good time celebrating with some friends and family. So that was nice. But we're really here to talk about the total solar eclipse that's happening on the 19th for the Pacific Standard Time. Well, pretty much everybody else. And it's happening on the 20th at 12:12 a.m. on the East Coast, which is where I live. And so we're going to talk about that. But before I do, the reason I mentioned today's date is the 11th is because today Jupiter is Cassimi. Jupiter is Cassimi, meaning that Jupiter is conjunct the sun today. So my friend whose birthday is today, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lucky day, for the luckiest day of the year for everybody, but especially for her, because this is happening exactly on her sun today. So I was like on the phone telling her, get it together, start making your wishes now, because this is just great energy to take advantage of. One of the other things about this energy is it's really ramped up energy. It's fire energy. You've got the sun and Jupiter fired up in Aries, and it's actually also conjuncting Chiron, who's also in Aries. So it could be, it may not feel like a lucky day, but it is a lucky day. So I'm hoping that you take advantage of this energy, which I really think is going to pull us through to the solar eclipse and beyond, because solar eclipses, but especially total solar eclipses, that energy lasts about 6 months till we get the next set of eclipses, right? And this eclipse is a solar eclipse. So what does that mean? It means that it's a new moon on steroids. And what do we do during new moons? We set intentions, we make wishes, we come to terms with our desires. If we're in a negative energy, we want to pivot because it's manifestation energy, and whatever you're planting your seeds to be on this eclipse, they're going to be magnified. And Jupiter is going to be within 6 degrees of this eclipse in Aries. So Jupiter is going to be about 23 degrees. The sun and moon are going to be at 29 degrees. And if you remember, the last new moon we had in March was also in Aries at 0 degrees. So we've got 0 degrees of Aries, and we've got 29 degrees of Aries. So the alpha and the omega, I've said it before. So it's the beginning and the end of Aries. And Aries represents the first house. This is the house of the individual, of the self. And quite soon, we're going to have the nodes of the moon moving out of Scorpio and Taurus. They're going to move into Aries and Libra because they're always on an axis. So Scorpio and Taurus are opposite of each other on the zodiac wheel, and they represent the houses. They represent finances and banking. And we've had a lot of stuff going on with that, right? So now they're moving into the houses of relationship to self, which is Aries, and relationship to the others, which is Libra. So lots of looking for harmony and balance, but also, looking at relationships. Are they serving you? Are you being taken advantage of? Are you setting your boundaries with people? Are people taking advantage of you because you haven't set boundaries? And it's time to set boundaries. And it's so funny that I say that, because today I had a boundary setting issue, and then I had somebody call me who was also having boundary setting issues. So the energy of this eclipse is already here. It is strong. It is strong energy. So I really, really highly encourage you to use this energy. Use this Jupiterian energy. I love Jupiter. Even though I'm a Capricorn, I'm not a big Saturn fan. You know, Saturn rules Aquarius. He's the ancient ruler of Aquarius, but and co-rules with Uranus, but which is weird because Uranus is his father and they don't get along. But anyway, but I am a Sagittarius ascendant. And oftentimes, if you know anything about your ascendant, the ascendant's kind of how you present yourself in the world. And I am very much a Capricorn and I'm very much a Sagittarius. So when Jupiter is like singing his song and doing his thing, I'm pumped today. I'm pumped up because Jupiter is conjunct the sun. So yeah, I'm in cheerleader mode. So warning now, viewer beware. But anyway, let's talk about this eclipse. So this eclipse is really amazing. And first of all, we're going to talk about the path of the eclipse. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And there's this really great website that some of you may know about. I only know about it because I used it for a long time. But it's called timeanddate.com, and they have like all kinds of maps and stuff. But you can go on and look for the path of the eclipses. And so wherever the eclipse is going over, so wherever you can see the eclipse, you can watch the eclipse as it happens. Oftentimes big changes come to that area. So this is the area where the eclipse is going to be really seen very well. So we're talking Australia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, Papua New Guinea. So for example, there may be political unrest there. There may be an outbreak of some sort. There could be something really wonderful. It doesn't always have to be bad. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom, but it can also be that you will see things happening in the course of the next 6 months in this area of the world, particularly. Doesn't mean it won't happen in other places too. But typically when we have eclipses, big things happen. You know, it's kind of like the difference between an eclipse and let's say a new moon is like, a new moon is when you reboot your computer. You know, you turn your computer off and turn it back on the next day. But a solar eclipse is like adding new software and rebooting everything, you know, losing all your cookies, you know, that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a fresh start in a lot of aspects. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, the universe just picks you up, moves you over, and drops you where you're supposed to be. So lots of big changes happen. And if you have something particularly that is close to the degrees of this, which I'll show you here in just a second. I will show you here in just a second. I have to find my little, there he is. I wanted to make it big enough so you could see, because I'm always worried that you can't see it. I'm going to share my screen again so you can see this beautiful thing. Okay. So when we're looking here at this chart, this of course is set for Eastern Standard Time, but if you're in Pacific Standard Time, this is obviously going to be the day before. This is April 20th at 12 a.m. 0, if you look at the chart. But down here is where all the action is happening. And because this eclipse is happening at 29 degrees, I want to say 50 minutes, 29 degrees, 50, it's really close to being at 0 degrees of Taurus. And so, you know, there's a lot of energy that's kind of over that line between Taurus. So it's kind of like out of sign conjunction stuff. And so when that happens, when you have, you know, energy that's like compiled, not only is that a huge stellium, but it's a stellium in two different signs that are kind of converging together. So Aries rules the first house in the main chart. Obviously, this chart is set for, I think I've set this chart for Indianapolis, which is kind of like my standard because I used to live in Indianapolis. So it's going to be predicated on Indianapolis's ascendant. So again, the ascendant is the time the sun is rising when you're born, and that determines what your ascendant is, and that's kind of how you present yourself in the world, how you get along in the world. So that's my Sagittarius, right? And that is Sagittarius. So that's one of the reasons I like this chart. But you've got all this stuff happening here. We've got Chiron at 16 degrees. Not super involved in this, but Chiron is still there and kicking in Aries. So any of you guys that are in your 50s or in your early 50s, you're going to be feeling this because you're having your Chiron return, right? So you're going to be feeling the energy of this. But we've got Jupiter at 23 degrees, Eris at 24 degrees. Last time I talked about Eris, but Eris is I think she's a dwarf planet. She's a little bit, I think her density is bigger than Pluto, but she's out by Pluto. She's way out there, right? She was going to be named Xena, and then they changed. I don't know who gets to do all that. It's like the people who name the nail polish, right? I want that job. I want the OPI nail polish naming thing, but I haven't gotten it yet. But anyway, but the powers that be, I know it's like there's like a acronym for these people who like look up all this stuff and they get to name stuff. So but she was going to be named Xena, like the warrior princess, if you ever watched that show. And Gabriella was going to be your moon and all this other stuff, but then they changed it and made it Eris. But basically Eris, if you know your mythology, she has the reputation of being the reason that the Trojan War started. She had a golden apple. What does that sound like? I was just watching Once Upon a Time and Regina, right, with the apples. But anyway, she had a golden apple and she brought it to a party that she wasn't invited to. Sounds like Maleficent as well. All the bad villains, yeah, all the bad villainesses. And she wrote for the fairest of them all on it and kind of threw it up and or threw it on the floor. And there was Pallas Athena, there was Juno, Jupiter's wife, and then there was Aphrodite, and they were all fighting over this apple. And supposedly that was the beginning of the Trojan War. So anyway, you can look it up and read more if you're interested, but that's as far as the lesson will go today in mythology. But anyway, so you've got Eris, and she's actually Aries' sister. And so she is a warrior, princess, goddess kind of gal, but she's pissed off. She's been mistreated, she's been abused, she's been rejected, dejected. She's not, the mean girls don't like her because she doesn't wear the coolest clothes. And so she's going to do everything she can to get back at them. I oftentimes, when I think of Eris, I think of Heathers. If you've ever seen that movie, Heathers, she's Winona Ryder's character. She's going to get back at you some way, somehow. She's going to do it. But anyway, so she's here with Jupiter conjunct. Oi. So there's going to be some dander rising. That's all I'm saying. Temperatures will soar. This is hot sun energy. This is hot Jupiter in Aries energy. This is Eris, I'm pissed off energy. So, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Don't let people push your buttons around this time. And we're going to start to feel this building. We also are in the shadow right now because Mercury is going to go retrograde here on the 21st of April at 15 degrees of Taurus. So we're already starting to, I don't know about you all, but I'm already starting to have technical issues and miscommunications and stuff. And it's just, horrendous. I don't want to say I hate Mercury in retrograde. Mercury in retrograde can be really great. There are good things to do during Mercury in retrograde, but I'm just not where I'm at right now. I don't need Mercury to be in retrograde. So he's getting very close to going retrograde here. And really, we've had, since February, I think February, we've had all the planets direct. And so having all this fast moving energy, I think life has been going off at a pretty fair clip, but it's going to start to slow down now because we're going to start seeing a succession of planets going into their retrograde periods, right? So not to mention Pluto. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening with this energy. This energy is going to be about the self, controlling the self, setting boundaries for the self. We've also got a conjunction up here out of sign with Vesta at 2 degrees of Taurus. We've got the North Node at 4 degrees because that North Node is moving down here. I mentioned we've got Mercury getting ready to go retrograde, who is conjunct Uranus. So that means there's going to be wackadoodle stuff going on, probably more so than usual with like your computer and all your stuff. So back it up, know where your phone's at, make sure that you, if something looks weird, go change your password, do all the stuff, like really pay attention and do the stuff, right? So all of that's happening. And this is actually happening in the house of self. So again, people might just be getting on your nerves. Take a deep breath and keep pivoting, keep positive, keep moving ahead. If you need to take an adult time, I say this to myself, I was like, I need an adult timeout because I'm going to say something I shouldn't, which is very Jupiterian, right? Very, very Sagittarian and Aryan energy, fire signs, right? Fire, fire. So we've got all of this convergence, but this is about setting a new intention. So what do you want to do? You want to see where 29 degrees of Aries falls in your chart. And then you want to see if you have anything within 3 degrees of either side of this. I would even say 7 degrees because it's that's a total. This is a total. So it's going to be strong. So you want to look over here to the other cardinal signs, which are going to be Cancer. Also over here to Libra, which is directly across from Aries. Then you want to also look across to Capricorn. Do you have anything in the upper degrees, like 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 degrees of the cardinal signs? If you do, you're going to feel this as difficult energy. I personally have my Mercury at 26, almost 27 degrees, and my Pallas Athena. And I am already feeling the energy of this, already feeling it, already having trouble, like I talked about. Plus Mercury's going retrograde. So I'm having Mercury issues, right? Mercury issues. So I'm feeling that for sure. Now, if you have anything in the fire signs, which I also have things in the fire signs. So I have Venus at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, and it is going to be exactly trining this new moon. So Venus is the things that you love and value. So that probably means that those things, the things that I love and value, may be changing. It may mean a windfall of maybe some cash. It may mean some other things going on in those areas of my life. But definitely it's trining that. It's going to also be trining up to Leo. If you have anything in the upper decan of Leo, you're going to figure that out, right? And then you'll know how this is going to be impacting you. Trines are the long blue lines. They look like this. They make like triangles, right? And these are sextiles. These are the short blue lines. Blue lines, like we mentioned last time, are harmonious energy. So it's flowy, beautiful, wonderful energy. The red lines, they're not bad, but they oftentimes create obstacles or challenges that you must overcome. And we have a big one in this chart. So here we have Pluto, who's going to be at 0 degrees and 20 minutes. He's just been in Aquarius not too long. He's only going to get 2 degrees higher. And then pretty quick here, what date is he? On the 1st of May, he's going to go retrograde at 0 degrees and 22 minutes. He's not going to get any higher into Aquarius. Now, next April, he's going to move into Aquarius and he's going to stay in there for like 20 years. So he's going to go back again and dip back into Capricorn. He's going to get down to about 27 degrees. So if you have anything around 27 degrees, anything that you didn't get transmuted in the last passage that he's been making for in Capricorn, he's been in my Mercury forever. And I'm just like, get the heck out of Capricorn, dude. And I'm a Capricorn. So, he's been in Capricorn since 2008. I'm done being transformed. I don't need any more transformation in that house for myself. So I'm looking forward to him going into Aquarius. Now, if you have things in Aquarius, you're in for a treat. You're in for the next 20 years of transformation for whatever's in there, right? And so particularly if you have anything in the early degrees of Pluto, you're really going to be feeling it right now. But he's going to go retrograde on the 1st of May, and then he is going to enter back into Capricorn on the 12th of June. So not too long. And then he will go direct in October, early October, and then he will end the year at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And I'm pretty sure, I don't think he goes in full time into Aquarius. I want to say it's either March or April, around the 24th or the 26th. I'm not positive sure about that, but it's sometime in early part of 2024, and he'll stay in there for 20 years. That's a long time, long time. But he's involved in what we call a T square. So we've got the south node here at 4 degrees of Scorpio. We've got the north node over here, plus Vesta, plus this sun and this moon, right? They are all conjunct, out of sign conjunction. And they're all within they're all within degree of actually opposing, right? Opposing the south node. So the south node is karma, it's the past, right? So that's the past in Scorpio. So this is hidden stuff, oftentimes around money. And we've been having a lot of issues with banking system in our country, but other countries are also having changes in their finances and their banking. And there's a lot of people talking about the things that are changing and how money is going to be changing continuously. So that's kind of happening. This is karma, right? But then this over here is also banking. Taurus is ruled by Venus, which rules money. And you've got the fixity of this and this sign. They don't like to change. They like stability. They like to build things. That's why they like money, right? But you've got an opposition here between these two things, and then they're squaring. That's the short red line. The long red line's an opposition. The short red line is 90 degrees, half of the opposition. That is known as a square. And when you put those three things together, they make this really great little T square, or it's like a little triangle, but we call it a T square in astrology. And I'm only saying that, I know a lot of you know that, but some people don't know that. So I'm just telling them in case they need to know that. So that's a really strong T square. So he is at the very beginning of Aquarius. Aquarius is the scientist. Aquarius is the future. Aquarius is electricity and technology. And it's about the group, it's about everyone in the collective. It's about frequency, all of these things. And he is saying to the past, to the future, to our hope, because that's what these new solar eclipse new moons are, right? The hope for the future. You've also got Vesta in here. Vesta's interesting. She's a little dwarf planet, and she is a goddess. She was in charge of keeping the violet flame of Rome burning. And supposedly if the violet flame of Rome went out, Rome would fall, right? So we're going to see a lot. We've been seeing a lot of things not working out, a lot of things failing or falling, right? So I think having Vesta in there is actually a good thing, because she's with the North Node, which is the future. And it's about, things falling down, but something better is going to come up, right? It's like the idea of, I just saw today that they tore down Betty White's house, which I think was built like back in the 60s or something. It looked exactly the same. But somebody bought the property, or I don't know, her son or somebody has the property, and they bulldozed the house. And the property, because she bought it so long ago, has a really beautiful lot, a really beautiful location, great view, but this really old 1964 house with yellow shutters and, a yellow door. So somebody is going to put something probably very modern and beautiful on that site, I would assume. But it's kind of like that, taking something that was good and serviceable that no longer is serving and useful, for people, and making it better. So that's really what this is about. And a T square is challenges. So is it going to be easy? No. We are already experiencing how uncomfortable this change is going to be. And Pluto is just at 0 degrees. It's just the beginning. We have 20 years of these changes coming on. So, and as the nodes are going to be moving on July 17th, I mentioned that last time, but July 17th, the nodes are going to be shifting from Taurus and Scorpio, where they've been for the last 18 months, and going to be shifting into Aries and Libra for the next 18 months. I think the last time that when the nodes were in Aries and Libra, but the North Node was in Libra, and I think the South Node was in Aries. I think Friends was like the #1 show on television. So this is a long time ago, because Friends is all about the group, right? 7. So Libra rules the 7th house. The house is known as the house of marriage, but it's more than that. It's the house of relationship to others. And so now with the North Node moving into Aries, it's going to be really interesting, because we're going to have all this focus and transformation happening with Pluto and Aquarius coming up. But I think it's really about setting the boundaries, because one of the things that happens with Aquarian energy is it's all futuristic, it's fast changing, it's very fast moving, it's very futuristic. And somehow you have to find the humanity in that. So it really makes me think about things like, like Star Wars, for example. It's like the idea that they live in this really, interstellar travel, crazy weaponry, flying in spaceships world. But then you've got the force, right? The spirit or the soul, right? That gives you personal power, right? Gives you personal power. So it's kind of like that kind of idea, right? Is like, it's time to really focus on your personal power, setting your boundaries, understanding yourself outside of the group, because the next 20 years is really going to be focused on the collective because of Pluto being in Aquarius. So this square, I think, is really going to be kind of waking us up to that possibility and potentiality. A couple other things that are happening during this lunation. We've got a trine with Mars in the water sign of Cancer coming down here to Saturn, who's also in a water sign. So Saturn and Mars can also get some tempers rolling. And, it's like 1 foot on the brake, 1 foot on the gas. So and with Mercury happening, getting ready to go retrograde, you might be feeling a lot. I even said, I typed this to someone today. I said, I am really frustrated. And then I looked at this chart and I was like, well, of course I am, because that Mars and Saturn energy is that push and pull. Now they're both in water signs, feminine water signs. So there's some harmony involved in that, because they're trining with that beautiful blue trine, right? But it's kind of, I think it's a little bit of rough water, or a little bit for sure. So those are some things that are happening during this lunation. And obviously we have a convergence of energy in this area. So wherever you have the last part of Aries and the first part of Taurus, like in this chart, they share the 5th house, but in some charts it may be all the 5th house, maybe all the 1st house, maybe all. So you want to know what's going on in those houses. Now the 5th house, that's my favorite house. That house is traditionally ruled by Leo. It's the fun house, right? It's like blonde hair, sunning on the beach, life of the party. Let's do karaoke, that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's kids. It's fun. It's summer. It's, Leo rules summer. So that is this energy for this particular chart. But in the main chart, the 1st house rules the self-identity, the self-esteem, early life experiences, and it's opposing the 7th house, which is ruled by Libra, which is like represents marriage, your relationship to other people, that kind of thing. So I really think this new moon would be a good opportunity, depending on where Aries is in your chart, but it's a good opportunity to really assess your relationships with others and to not lose yourself in those relationships. I think that can be really hard sometimes. People come to rely on us for specific things. And because of that, sometimes it doesn't allow us to grow and change in the ways that we need to. And so when you come out at someone and you have different boundaries, you have different things that you want to do, and they don't fit in the box that person has put you in, it can create conflict, right? And so that's going to maybe be a little bit of the theme during this lunation, because Eris is in here and she's like, don't put me in the corner. Nobody puts Eris in the corner, right? Anyway, I hope you like my cheesy film references. But nobody puts Eris in the corner. We need t-shirts that say that, right? Anyway, yeah. So I think it's going to be beautiful energy, but it's really, like I'm going to say again for the 15,000th time, really important to pivot and keep that energy positive. So if somebody's really on your nerves, take an adult time out, go meditate, connect in with yourself, connect in with your spirit, and really focus on what you're creating in your life, where you're going, what you want to create. Today, the 11th of April, is a wonderful day to really start to think about your intentions, think about your desires, think about like what you're creating for yourself. This is a beautiful time, really, with Saturn moving through Pisces. He's going to be in here for a little bit, couple of years. But Saturn in Pisces is really interesting because Saturn makes you work, but Saturn also manifests for the long term. We're talking 20, 30-year manifestations, right? So this is for a lot of us, that maybe older or looking ahead to retirement or things like that. This is a perfect time to say, hey, do I want to sell my house? Where do I want to live? Do I want to have like a timeshare? Do I want to spend part of the year here and part of the year? This is a perfect time to start looking into those things. Even if those things aren't something you're going to invest in right away or change right away, it's good to just get the ball rolling, taking action, because this eclipse is in a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs take action, is good, because whatever action you take will help move you forward down the line. Again, this lunation is going to carry us for 6 months until October, when we have the next set of eclipses that are going to be happening. And again, this eclipse is happening in Aries. The next eclipse is going to happen in Scorpio. The ones in October are going to happen in Libra and Taurus, because we're switching the batons, right? We're moving the nodes. And so we're going to have one more eclipse in Scorpio, one more eclipse in Taurus, and then we're going to be seeing those nodes making that shift as well. So the eclipses are determined by where the nodes are placed, right? So that's important information. So for those of you that are still learning astrology, the nodes are really interesting, and they help in your own chart kind of determine where your focus in life is supposed to be directed and where your past is coming from. So you might have a lot of talents in the areas where you see South Node in your chart, but this life, those things are supposed to help support you as you move towards the North Node position in your chart. Anyway, I wish you a fantastic solar eclipse in Aries at 29 degrees and 50 minutes. And it's going to happen on the 19th for the West Coast at 9:12 p.m. and 12:12. I love 12:12. 12:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 20th of April. So set your intentions and be ready for some big changes. So don't forget to set your intentions. Whatever it is that you're working towards, this will take you forward for 6 months. And it's really important to focus on what it is that you want. And you may be in a situation where you're feeling a little frustrated, or maybe you're a little irritated with people, but pivot away from that. You can deal with that later. Take your adult time out, go find some alone time, and, do something for yourself, get back into your body, get back into your center, and focus on what it is that you are creating for your life. I hope that that was helpful, and I hope that you have a wonderful total solar eclipse in Aries. Take care.